Romance anime before. Romance anime now. I see no issue with this. Anime today is getting bigger and better, with more anime being released at a faster rate, and with multiple bangers per season. It's hard not to be swept away by the current trends, which end up eating up all your anime watching time. But sometimes you just can't find the right thing to scratch your itch, so you decide to look back to the anime classics. But I've already watched classics like Cowboy Bebop and Neon Genesis Evangelion, so I had to go deeper down the iceberg of old anime to something more obscure. I was looking for something sweet, so a rom-com, and a longer show, so about 24 episodes, and I found it. An anime from 1998, made by the legendary studio Gainax, and directed by none other than Ava's Hideaki Anno. I stepped away from the marvels of today's romance anime. God, I wish that was me. I turned back the clock and took a journey back in time. I started watching His and Her Circumstances. If you want my elevator pitch on the premise of His and Her Circumstances, or Karakano as it's colloquially called, it would be, it's like Kaguya-sama but not turned up to 11. Now you might think, well that's bad, why would I want to watch a lesser version of Kaguya? Well, two reasons. One, Kaguya is a com-rom, Karakano is a rom-com. Kaguya's bread and butter is its skits, with any serious development being slowly built up, and perfectly mixed in with the humour to push the absurdity of the situations. Karakano is more traditional, focusing on the romance and making it funny along the way. But in terms of the bare bones premise, the two are nearly identical. And I wouldn't be surprised if Aka Akasaka was somewhat inspired by Karakano when he began work on Kaguya-sama. In both shows, a boy and a girl who are at the top of their schools in terms of test scores put a lifelong facade in front of all those around them to appear perfect and to sate their more twisted desires underneath. When they meet one another, they feel threatened and want to ensure that they are the more perfect person, before slowly realising that they actually have feelings for the other person and want to confess, but the wall of their facade forces them to go about it in a roundabout way. Karakano specifically is about Miyazawa Yukino, a girl who is perfect in all regards to those around her, smart, beautiful, always friendly and helpful, but they don't realise Yukino doesn't do this because that's who she is as a person, but because she wants this reputation. She is a self-proclaimed egomaniac, only dropping the facade once she goes home to prepare for the next day's battle in her more relaxed state. She's like Umaru-chan, but instead of turning into an absolute degenerate gremlin that would give Bocchi the Rock a run for her money, she instead turns into a normal teenage girl. But just as she's starting to have feelings for the perfect boy, Arima Soichiro, he happens to drop by her house to discover this unknowable secret. So in stage 1 of these mind games to defeat the object of their affections, Arima starts out with a huge advantage, an advantage so large that if either Light or L had it, it would have ended definite right there. Miyazawa's only hope now is if Arima is unlike her. Is he actually true to his image? And wouldn't even think about using this embarrassing secret of Miyazawa just being a human being, I guess, against her? No. He makes her do all of his student council work and homework, turning Miyazawa essentially into his pack horse, furthering her frustration with him. The way I presented this makes it sound like it's going to be 26 episodes of the two fucking with one another, with the odd morsel of romantic moments to hint maybe something will happen. Like with basically all romance anime from this time to about the mid-2010s, romance anime felt the need to never put the two leads into their relationship, acting as if getting into the relationship is the end goal of the story and that there's nothing worth telling that can happen past that point. Maybe it's because they weren't confident in writing relationships. An anime fan moment. But that can't be further from the truth. I won't spoil when or how, but these two get in a relationship very early on in the story. And then, is that just a title? Is it like Bunny Girl Senpai where the two are in a relationship and while they flirt and have great chemistry, there's never really any development because they spend so much time apart? No. Miyazawa and Arima kiss early and kiss often. Get your pogs ready because they also... If you want to watch a show about two people in a relationship and an actually healthy one at that, watch Karakano. I do need to caveat this with a but, because while this show doesn't fall into the drawn out romance trap all the other romances at the time did, it does fall into another. I will get into this later because I want to continue singing this anime's praises first. The show doesn't just rest on the fact it has a great main couple, the side characters are pretty amazing too. As the two most popular, attractive people in their school, it's pretty evident that both Arima and Miyazawa have admirers, but instead of spinning annoying love triangle plots and the pains of unrequited love, it gives these characters the chance to move on and grow, before giving them their own romantic vignette stories. It gives us a break from the main couple so they're not milked for all their worth, and gives depth to these other characters, which other shows would just forget. The easiest comparisons I can think of are Surezure Children, with its multiple leading couples, and O Maidens in Your Savage Season, which is about 5 girls and their individual romances. In Karakano, the side characters consist of the pretty boy who is yaoi bait as he wants to get Arima to join him so that they can become the Team Rocket of romance or something. Maho Izawa, who struggles with playing second fiddle to Miyazawa. Both Miyazawa and Arima actually have parents because the story knows what to do with family characters instead of just shipping them off overseas. The equivalent of sending your pets to a farm in anime terms. Miyazawa actually has a group of friends that aren't just exposition and comic relief, but the one girl who I think shines the most is Shibahime Tsubasa. Shibahime grew up spoiled. Her father gave her everything she wanted and the love to rival Tony Stark's, at least 3001. In middle school, she found herself naturally gravitating to Arima, where their school idolized them both. Arima for being the perfect student, and Shibahime for being an adorable doll that everyone wants to protect. So Shibahime got the idea that she and Arima were basically fated for one another, even though he never made a move on her. Obviously, this reality shattered when the two entered high school. So we're left with this girl who essentially has had her perfect reality shattered. And what does she do when this has never happened before? She goes sicko mode. But we learn it's not as simple as that. She may be spoiled, but her father dotes on her because Shibahime's mother abandoned them when Shibahime was young. There is a fear of abandonment in the root of all her actions, and she is feeling more alone than ever now that her dad has finally met someone new, and she doesn't want to lose him as well. So when the only other constant in Shibahime's life, Arima, starts to slip away, it becomes more than she can handle, but she learns and accepts the fact that she can't stop Arima leaving her, so starts to get to know Miyazawa and realizes she's not a bad person. Due to that, Shibahime begins to open up to the idea of her father having someone else important in his life, and maybe she, the daughter of a single father, can find something in common with the son of a single mother. I've spoken more about Karakano's story, the stuff adapted from the manga, but let's talk about the actual medium it's in, the anime portion. The anime was made by Studio Gainax and directed by Hideki Anno, the man behind Evangelion, and it shows. You think a school rom-com can't have kaiju battles? Wrong! You think a slice of life show can't end its main story by ignoring the plot and then doing a deep dive on the emotional state of the characters in a poignant character study? Think again! You can't comprehend the idea that a show with so little action would be cut by the same time constraints and or budget cuts that Evangelion face, so they would have episodes of basically keyframes. Well, they did, and it was one of the funniest episodes of the show. It was like if I stopped using this footage and replaced it with a PowerPoint. Wait. In the latter half of the show, there's a lot of creative liberties, and a lot of them, to their credit, are done well, but these liberties were a band-aid on amputated limbs, because Karakano was unfortunately struck by a common illness found in many a manga adaptation. Karakano suffers from ran out of source materialitis. To be honest, the signs were there from the beginning. You know how most anime have iconic music, which are used in specific moments befitting the theme? Well, Karakano has that, but instead of different songs for different feelings, it's the same song. Sad moment. Happy moment. Bittersweet moment. You get the point. The ED, instead of being an animated sequence that we're so used to seeing, it seems Gainax gave one of their interns a camera and told them just to record the coffee run or something. Although, to be fair, Karakano does have the single greatest credit sequence to ever be made in anime. incredible. There is some good from them running out of source material, however. Like I said, we get some episodes which are generally very creative and very funny. The main issue arises, from what I can tell, in trying to make the ending. Hideki Anno drew from his experience from Evangelion. Now, I love Evangelion. I made a video about how much I love Eva, but I love Eva not mainly because of its world and its story, but because it was about Hideki Anno pouring his soul and feelings into this world and story. It's a reflection of what he feels and his perspective, but that doesn't work for Karakano. It especially doesn't work because at the time of release, 1999, Hideki Anno was probably in a similar headspace to when he did End of Eva, just 2 years prior, which sort of ends with a fear of connecting, but still hopeful for the future, and that didn't work for Karakano. Arima becomes increasingly Shinji-like, but not too Shinji-like fortunately, and his character makes the show end on a bad note, even if Miyazawa ends off pretty positively in terms of her arc, but there is no cohesive end to the story, just sort of implications for their arcs in future. I can't recommend this anime without at least warning that the last episode is unsatisfying, but fully believe that the story to that point, the many episodes which do progress the story, and even the other episodes which are more there for fun, are absolutely worth the watch. And what's oh so great is that the manga has ended, so you can just as easily jump into that at any point for the proper conclusion of the story. Karakano may not be equivalent to the Neon Genesis Evangelions or the Cowboy Bebops of the past. It's not a classic. But as a show which I can see clearly influenced the rom-com genre, this show is a hidden gem and deserves to be remembered.